There is a moment many people experience, sometime in their 60s or 70s. It usually doesn't arrive with a dramatic warning. One day, a bag of groceries feels a little heavier. A flight of stairs seems a little longer. Getting up from a low chair takes a little more effort than it once did. At first, those moments seem insignificant. Most people brush them aside. I'm just getting older. But what if those small changes are telling a much bigger story? Because for many adults, the first thing they lose isn't muscle. It's freedom. Not all at once, but in tiny pieces. A place they no longer feel comfortable visiting. An activity they quietly stopped doing. A hesitation that wasn't there a few years ago. Over time, the world becomes a little smaller. What makes this process so deceptive is that it rarely announces itself. There is no alarm, no obvious turning point, no single day when everything changes. Instead, small amounts of muscle disappear year after year. The change is so gradual that most people hardly notice it happening. Yet beneath the surface, a silent transformation may have been unfolding for decades. Starting around age 30, adults can lose roughly 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade, and the process often accelerates after age 60. This condition has a name: sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. For a long time, many of us were taught to think of weakness as an unavoidable part of aging. Modern research tells a more interesting story. In many cases, muscle loss begins first. Strength starts to fade, and many of the limitations we associate with getting older gradually follow. That distinction matters because it changes where the story begins. Imagine two people in their late 60s. On paper, they are exactly the same age, yet their daily lives look very different. One travels, gardens, carries luggage through airports, plays with grandchildren, and stays engaged in the activities they enjoy. The other starts turning down opportunities, not because they want to, but because everything feels slightly harder, slightly more tiring, and slightly less certain. The difference is often not age itself. The difference is strength, and strength influences almost every part of independent living. Think about the ordinary movements that quietly fill a normal day. Walking upstairs, carrying groceries, getting off the floor, opening a heavy door, catching yourself when you lose balance. None of these feel remarkable when we can do them. Yet each one represents something incredibly valuable: the ability to move through life without depending on someone else. When strength begins to decline, everyday tasks demand more effort. Eventually, that effort begins shaping decisions. Certain activities are skipped. Invitations are declined. Confidence gives way to caution. That is why sarcopenia matters. Not because muscles look smaller, because life can become smaller. The science behind this is far more fascinating than many people realize. Researchers now understand that muscle is not simply a collection of tissues that helps us move. Healthy muscle functions almost like an internal support system. Every time muscles contract, they release chemical signals that communicate with other parts of the body, influencing metabolism, inflammation, and even brain health. In other words, muscle is doing much more than helping us lift things. It is helping the entire body function more effectively. When that system becomes weaker, the consequences extend far beyond physical appearance. Researchers from organizations such as the Mayo Clinic and the National Institutes of Health have highlighted another important reality. Strength often declines faster than muscle mass itself. A person may look largely the same while experiencing meaningful losses in physical capability. This is one reason doctors pay close attention to something surprisingly simple: walking speed. Some experts even call it the sixth vital sign. That may sound unusual until you consider what walking requires: strength, balance, coordination, cardiovascular fitness, nervous system function. A simple walk reflects how many different systems are working together. Perhaps the most encouraging part of this story is that aging muscle remains remarkably responsive. Even in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, the body retains a powerful ability to adapt. Strength can improve. Physical function can improve. Daily life can become easier again. The body continues listening when we send the right signals. One of those signals comes from protein. As we age, muscle becomes less responsive to small amounts than it was earlier in life. That makes adequate protein increasingly important. Many experts suggest that around 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at a meal may help support muscle maintenance, depending on individual needs. Protein is not a miracle solution. It is simply the raw material the body uses for repair and rebuilding. Another signal comes from resistance training. Whether the challenge comes from weights, resistance bands, bodyweight exercises, or other safe forms of training, the message is the same. This strength is still needed. The body responds to that message, not by turning most people into athletes, but by helping preserve the abilities that make everyday life easier and more enjoyable. Balance and mobility matter as well. With age, some of the fast-reacting muscle fibers that help us recover from a stumble can begin to decline. Maintaining balance and mobility helps keep those systems engaged. Sometimes, the difference between a minor trip and a serious fall is measured in fractions of a second. Recovery is equally important. Many people think muscles are built during exercise. Exercise is only the signal. Much of the rebuilding happens afterward, especially during sleep. While we rest, the body coordinates countless repair processes that help us recover and adapt. Strength and sleep are not separate stories. They are part of the same story. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, sarcopenia is not really a story about muscle tissue. It is a story about preserving options. The option to travel. The option to remain active. The option to continue participating in the moments that give life meaning. The remarkable truth is that the body often remains more adaptable than we assume. Positive change is possible far later in life than many people realize. Every walk, every strength training session, every protein-rich meal, and every night of restorative sleep becomes an investment in future capability. And capability creates freedom. That freedom may be one of the most valuable forms of health we can ever protect. In our next video, we'll explore another piece of this puzzle. Because strength does not operate alone. It depends on something quietly influencing energy, recovery, metabolism, and long-term health every single day. Your body's internal clock. We'll look at how sleep and circadian rhythms change after 50, and what you can do to keep that system working in your favor. If parts of this story felt familiar, I'd love to hear your experience. Have you noticed changes in strength, balance, or energy over the years? And what habits have helped you stay active and independent? If you found this discussion valuable, consider joining us for the next conversation. Because the goal isn't simply to add more years to life. It's to protect the freedom to fully live the years we have.